There's very little honor in holding up the convictions of being able to defend yourself in that scenario or wanting to defend yourself in that scenario. It's like, no, take my wallet and off. I quote, gradually it has become clear to me what every great philosophy up until now has consisted of, namely, the confession of its originator and a species of involuntary and unconscious autobiography. Unquote. Friedrich Nietzsche. Damning. Essentially, he's just saying that all philosophy, up until him at least, has been post hoc rationalization. You know, people justifying their own life. I came across this post by Adrian Dittmann. 21st century is largely devoid of true philosophers. There's a lot of thought provoking answers and sort of ground that we can explore with this question because he's essentially asking, where have all the philosophers gone? You know, by any rights, with many more people on this planet, we should have significantly more philosophers. And I think where I'm going to start with this is that our philosophical ground has significantly narrowed. You know, most philosophy today involves sort of an academic approach within a very specific field. You know, you have John McWhorter, who's a linguistics professor of some sort, but he's written many books on sort of the that would be called sociological, you know, even political science. You have Jordan Peterson, who's a clinical psychologist, who's written about, you know, religion, Christianity, meaning. Not to mention that if you really try to take it into the realm of a traditional philosopher, you have to kind of tread over already worn ground. You know, it involves some level of plagiarism, but not plagiarism. You know, back when I was actually watching Stefan Molyneux and he released his universal basic behavior or some sorts, like eating is universal basic behavior. It's like, okay, thank you. Yes, we need to eat to live. Does is that useful? Is that insightful? Does that create a new school of thought? You know, is that the new Frankfurt School? Universal basic behavior? No, that's kind of at the essence of true philosophers that Mr. Dittman here is kind of playing with. You know, even if we went further back, something kind of more pure, like the ancient Greeks. What why would you dedicate so much of your philosophical efforts to retreading the ground of metaphysics? You know, that's just a waste of time. I mean, Stefan Molyneux basically chose a useless concept to work on, universal basic behavior. You know, what is gained by that? What philosophical meaning are you deriving for yourself or for the world or for philosophy in and of itself? Not to mention, all of this is contextually based. So even if I wanted to claim that fire is the appropriate basis for natural science, it's not like it means anything to people today. People don't think like that. People don't have that lens when they approach the world. I'd have to go back 2,000 years just to be understood by anybody who isn't a philosophy teacher, I guess. You know, this leads us very well into science. You know, science is just too encompassing in today's world. We can't think without science. We don't understand anything without science. Even if we think we're skeptical of it, even if our group says that we should be skeptical of it. In many cases, it is reasonable to be skeptical of science. But we still can't think without it. You know, women while pregnant taking Tylenol is like the most perfect example of this. This used to be a very left-coded hippie mom, would refuse to take epidurals even during pregnancy. And I mean, I even had this recently brought up by somebody who fits that bill, and I'm wondering what they're thinking now that all the Trumpers are the anti-Tylenol people. You know, this is a perfect example. There's no emotional presence of just saying, talk to your doctor, place trust in your doctor. Well, even that requires science, because you have to assume that any of the academic scientific knowledge that the doctor may understand is trustworthy. Where's room for philosophy in a world like that? There's no community or self-sufficiency that's capable of supporting a non-scientific thinking. The world is just too complex to try and understand without science. You know, if we take somebody close but philosophical to us, you know, like John Stuart Mills, when he's creating utilitarianism or his defense of liberal rights, basically. You know, he says freedom of speech is necessary because it's impossible for any one person to really determine what is correct. So we need all the voices to weigh all the options in order to determine, you know, what is best for society. And he also goes through a bunch of exceptions, you know, that increase well-being, even though they might seem to impose suffering onto other people. You know, the police breaking into your house in order to get you onto a stretcher and into an ambulance because you've had a heart attack. I mean, that's the police violating your rights to some extent, but they're trying to save your life. So most reasonable people would agree that that is a net positive for society. I mean, John Stuart Mills obviously doesn't use that, but it's something along those lines of a doctor saving your life. And so when he's doing this, he doesn't rely on a scientific lens. He doesn't bring up studies. He simply emotes the moral intuitions of somebody of that time. If you're Nietzsche, he's emoting his own moral intuitions. But back to the topic at hand. You know, why are there no true philosophers? You know, avenues of information, they change. You know, that there's no value to long form great works. You know, we've sort of adapted to long form content. You know, we can have conversations, we can have interests that carry longer than 15 seconds. We can have sort of interesting dynamics that carry more than 15 seconds, and these seem to be much more compelling. They are more immediate. They work really well, and there's the ability to sort of cut and snip it. You can remove all the dumb parts where Joe Rogan is asking Bernie Sanders, you know, what his childhood is like, and then you can skip right to the point where, you know, Bernie Sanders complains about being screwed over by the Democrats or whatever, right? Even if that wasn't true, you get the point. You know, where in this type of environment of the fast internet does sitting down and spending 3 years working on a philosophical work get you? There's no incentive for that. There's no honor or greatness in it. You're just going to get proven wrong by a dumbass meme on the internet. I mean, some guy's going to post a video covering it, and he's gonna dismantle everything in like 15 minutes. That's where the philosophy is taking place. But maybe it's just too fast. Maybe we need more slower, more thought provoking, more holistic approaches to things. Get out of the science and out of the books. Just just explore things. And I guess we can kind of forget about the TikTok addicts. For them, information travels so fast, and their people's memories are really only as fast as the flow of information that they receive. You want to have a 3-hour conversation. I mean, there's a lot to memorize. There's a lot to intake in that kind of scenario. But if you skip from scene to scene, from TikTok to TikTok, from splice to splice, then you're not gonna remember. At least that would be philosophical. I mean, my wife brings up so many random vines. I was never a viner, so she has to like go dig the internet troves just to find something. The internet doesn't incentivize any of this. You know, there's no greatness in the ideas even. Even if we changed our culture and said, now we shall respect people who spend 10 years writing one philosophical work at the potential to do something moderately great. It's not really the works we're going to remember anyways. Only the high-minded, high IQ, autistic people are going to remember any of that anyways. You still need slogans. You still need personalities behind them. I mean, even after the amount of Nietzsche I've read, I've only just gained the essence of Nietzsche rather than the actual works themselves. I mean, anything off the top of my head is basically just master slave morality. I can't really bring together small details unless they were so impactful to the way that I think, or to their level of interestingness, or the snark or the humor behind the comments. So we just stick with the personalities. Like Jordan Peterson, there's no, I like the main philosophical basis of 12 Rules for Life. He's a clinical psychologist, kind of funny, got this older man charm, and it fulfills my need for a proper role model, right? This kind of thinking is just not geared towards regular people, right? That's why they're holding on to the parasocial relationship. That's why you're just gaining the essence. You know, like it's extremely laboring trying to read certain philosophers. I can understand them, but if you really sit down and read Plato or Aristotle, it takes some time to get going. There's a bit of fluff and context in words that you have to parse through. But once you get going, I guess you gain this type of understanding of the philosophy as a whole. The only thing you would get out of virtue ethics is not just moderate your behaviors. Use the strengths of your personality. Avoid the weaknesses of your personality. Personally, I'm a bit of a lazy prick, so I kind of have to find ways to trick myself. But I mean, I can bullshit for hours, so that's the laziness. And I mean, I could go on, but I think I've hammered enough points home about why there's no true philosophers in that sense. And so we really have to kind of go back to the question at hand is what constitutes a true philosopher? I mean, in general, it's opinion and perspective. We've kind of identified what is a true philosopher in today's world, but maybe it's more interesting to see what's a true philosopher in Dittmann's mind. So I guess we can kind of just jot over. His bio is life is too short to worry about stupid things. Okay. Have fun, fall in love, regret nothing, don't let people bring you down, study, think, create, grow. I mean, fine enough. Personally, I wonder how long it took him to settle on that. There's kind of this es- essence of a free spirited, optimist, likely idealist kind of person. Obviously, clearly very pro technology, probably despises on some level what he would call base emotions or thoughts. I mean, it makes sense why people would have suspected him to be Elon Musk. Like, if I had to guess, this guy's probably hyper intelligent, very personally wealthy, likely, a few people in his life. But, if he was a business owner, he would be the only person working there. That's kind of the essence that I would get. In other comments, I just took out a few snippets of his timeline. Ethics and the strength with which they are held provide an excellent measure of an individual's commitment to doing good. I mean, sure, I don't know how much I really see that being practical. I mean, if you're doing anything, you have to have a certain level of conviction, commitment to doing good. But I don't agree that we really know if what we're doing is good. I don't think that most people would agree that what society is doing right now is generally heading in a good direction, right? But I mean, you can kind of have any ethical framework, right? The is there's a progressive framework, there's the libertarian framework. If they strongly believe in their libertarian framework, does that just mean libertarianism is now good, or that they're a good person? I mean, isn't the famous saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions? I mean, there are plenty of people who've done horrible things that believed they were doing good. The whole eugenics movement is that they certainly believed their ethics. They're good is maybe a little too abstract, right? Because this is good and evil, but maybe it's just good and bad, you know, like benefiting society. But then if you're benefiting society, it's even more complex to try and understand it. So almost nobody who actually is doing good really has an ethical framework. Like, do politicians have ethical frameworks? They're just motivated by self-interested power and money and status. Yeah, no, they're extremely committed to being politicians. But does them believing in, I don't know, providing small business loans, is that is that a good measure of somebody doing something good? I guess so. But at least we got to explore his mindset a little bit. Your focus should be more on results than the process. unless you seek to remove, optimize, or automate that process for better results, right? See, this is the lone wolf type of mentality. I mean, this is a very end goal type of thing, a very idealistic, or to me, as the pragmatist, he's basically utopian, believes in perfect worlds, from my perspective at least. Maybe he doesn't believe it, but compared to most people, he probably does, right? Robots will solve hunger and poverty. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it'll at least solve liability. I don't know if that solves hunger. Maybe it creates a different problem. And so we need some other perfected, quote unquote, perfected solution to solve that. It's an almost universal experience among men to sit in silence and ponder philosophy, resource acquisition, and defense scenarios. Um, I mean, I disagree on the philosophy thing. Most people are too bored by philosophy. Resource acquisition, it's pretty secondhand nature for people. Most people are generally concerned about how to improve their lives, or how to get money, or aware on some level how they can get money. But obviously, some people require the help of others or government. Defense scenarios, yeah, I can't disagree with that one. But as I get older, it's less the childlike defense scenarios that wording kind of evokes, and it's more this anxiety over struggle rather than defense. I'm not in a real defense scenario. I'm fucking terrified of it. Like there's no once you enter life to some degree, defense scenarios become horrifying. You're like, I would be scared shitless if a guy came at me with a knife. There's very little honor in holding up the convictions of being able to defend yourself in that scenario, or wanting to defend yourself in that scenario. It's like, no, take my wallet and fuck off. I mean, it's a different kind of mindset and worldview, right? Some people believe in the honor of, you know, having dignity or not being insulted, or, having pride in your status. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like this has that with the whole space exploration worldview, right? I mean, he's clearly in the realm of, like, we need to be mining asteroids and we need to colonize Mars. And I mean, I don't think those worldviews are really useful. I don't even think they're really relevant to modern solutions. They're trying to solve, quote unquote, civilizational solutions that, are so far away. Mining asteroids. Dude, are we at the point where we need to bring more mineral resources to Earth? Are we out of copper? I mean, are we out of fresh water and we need to mine comets? I mean, it's actually probably more worthwhile just figuring out how to reuse the resources on Earth, right? I mean, how expensive would it be to launch probes and then bring the asteroid down to Earth without it, like, completely incinerating in the atmosphere? Let alone colonizing Mars. That's like pipe dream. I mean, you can like space, sure, but maybe Mr. Dittmann was too poor to be an astronomer. And so he decided to be a quant instead. As I mean, I don't blame him. Hell, I would pick being a quant in that scenario too. And so we kind of end with what what really is a true philosopher for Mr. Dittmann. I mean, they would have to be utopian. They would have to be space oriented, clearly enough. Kind of the one solution to solve all problems. Let's upload the super intelligence to take care of all our decision making. Nothing ethically wrong with that, or confusing, or conflicting. Just unleash robots. I mean, I can get behind that to some degree. Hell, car insurance is horrible. Just automate all the cars. Sorry to all the truckers, but it'll happen eventually. I don't know. What is a true philosopher? I don't think there's anybody who really fits his bill. I mean, like the Carl Sagan is really the closest thing that comes to mind. The kind of secular, oh, human beings are inherently valuable because and precious because we're so unique to this world. And that space is so vast and magnificent. And I agree to an extent, but I wouldn't come to the same sorts of secular conclusions on this. I don't know, maybe that is his true philosopher. Just just some scientist.